Hey, look, it's relief for one person. It's relief for one person, and it's Stephanie White. Let's be completely honest. Like, it is not a relief for Aaliyah Boston knowing for a fact Caitlin Clark is out. Like, it's not some sort of, oh, you know what, that's a relief. You know, we don't even have to wonder whether or when Caitlin's coming back. We just know she's not coming back. Like, there's no relief in that.
In that, the WNBA is being closely examined once more, but this time it has nothing to do with contentious calls or on-court altercations. It has to do with something far more serious. Fans are now doubting all they believed they knew about the relationship between starlet Caitlin Clark and head coach Stephanie White of the Indiana Fever after it took an unexpected turn.
Stephanie White has chosen Kelsey Mitchell over Caitlin Clark, and that's just flat out the truth. Stephanie White wants to run this offense through Kelsey Mitchell, and she says it herself right here. She wants Kelsey Mitchell to keep firing. At one point in the game, Kelsey Mitchell was 2 for 14. And we already know Caitlin Clark came out on the Sue Bird podcast and said that Stephanie White don't want her shooting.
For Clark and her loyal fan base, what should have been a dream coaching scenario has turned into something that increasingly resembles a nightmare. It's getting harder to deny the unsettling fact as the data grows. It's possible that Stephanie White would rather coach the Indiana Fever without their best player playing.
The Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston deadly connection, pick and roll, two-man game connection that has worked this whole season, gone. Poof, the one thing that was in existence that actually worked, that felt like a little bit of something offensive that worked, gone.
Would you kindly subscribe if you're enjoying Stephanie White's remarks, which can only be characterized as one of the most tone-deaf in recent WNBA history, were the bombshell moment. When discussing Caitlin Clark's injury-related indefinite absence, White expressed her genuine emotions regarding the circumstance. White clarified the team's understanding of Clark's absence by saying, "I think that's big. Simply having the mentality that we have what it takes to keep developing and connecting in those ways as a group." Her subsequent statement, however, was what really gave the squad focus and a sense of relief.
Big head coach Stephanie White agreed. Just the mindset of our group to know what we've got, what we got, to continue to grow and connect in those ways. And is she available? Is she not available? Will she practice? Will she not practice? And that's sort of disruption that comes with that. So there's clarity. I think it's good for everybody. It's good for Caitlin too. She doesn't feel any kind of way. She can just approach and attack her rehab one day at a time. I think this is crazy. I think it's crazy trying to make an argument.
I feel relief. Take a moment to absorb that word. The Indiana Fever's head coach recently acknowledged that the squad feels relieved to have Caitlin Clark, the league's top attraction and the player who single-handedly kept the team afloat, out of the starting lineup.
Y'all created this mess. She just sits here and tells you, oh, it's better than we know. You knew last week. You knew 10 days ago. You knew dating back to the 14th of July when the injury happened. You knew it then. You knew that she was not going to be able to play. But y'all ran with this narrative. You continue to do it. Oh, it's day to day or it's this. No, you always knew. So you making some excuse now for why you don't play well? That's on you, Stephanie White.
This goes beyond simply using the wrong words or making a false assertion. This provides an insightful look into the thoughts of a coach who appears essentially uncomfortable mentoring a generational talent. The last thing you should experience when your top player is hurt is relief, as she attracts millions of spectators, sells out venues, and brings in more money than the entire league combined.
I think it's a really weird way of wording things. I think they word it in a really weird way, being like, oh, you know, it's going to help us knowing that she's officially out. Like, let's be real, it's a groin injury. She's not going to be out. She was not going to be back for the Vegas game. She was not going to be back for the last Liberty game. She's not going to be back for the Liberty game before that. She's not going to. We know she's not going to be back for the Sky game. Like, we know she's not going to be back until at least like the 8th of August. At least the 5th of August. Let's be real. At least the 5th of August. So, like, I'm sorry, but how is it a relief knowing the Caitlyn not having to worry about whether Caitlyn will or won't practice. You know she's not practicing right.
White continued to make alarming remarks about Clark. Throughout the season, she has stated on several occasions that she thinks the squad performs better without their superstar. White made yet another startling remark when questioned about the team's performance both with and without Clark. Without Clark, she asserted, the squad engages in more off-ball activities, which leads to quicker ball movements. Without their all-star captain, she said, they have more speed but sacrifice size on defense. Fans were instantly incensed by these remarks because they couldn't believe what they were hearing. The ball travels more quickly, and our defense is stronger. Good. Why is Caitlyn even necessary? The underlying worry was genuine, even though the remark was mocking. In essence, their coach was saying that the team performed better when their best player wasn't playing.
Let me tell you something. Y'all do not move the ball better without my Caitlyn Clark, aka my precious CC. At the end of the day, y'all have only won 4 games and recorded 4 games where y'all had 20 assists as a team at the end of the day. Caitlyn Clark, aka my precious CC, she averages 7 to 9 assists a game. You hear me? Because she moves the ball and get everybody open, because everybody and their mama and their grandma be double teaming and triple teaming her, and her team is lazy when it comes to setting screens.
White's comments regarding the team's defensive development during Clark's absence followed the trend. White said, I think first and foremost, defensively we've been better, in reference to the team's play without Clark. When Clark wasn't on the floor, she commended their excellent attention to detail and regular coverages. White's seeming fixation with developing a team identity that isn't centered around Caitlyn Clark is possibly the most unsettling. White has consistently underlined how the squad has developed a somewhat stronger defensive identity without their star during Clark's several injury absences.
Because without her, they get to play that slow down, walk the ball up the floor basketball that she likes to play over the breakneck, let's run this ball down the floor type of basketball that Caitlyn Clark and the team actually likes to play. But you sitting here saying, oh yeah, well, we know what we got going forward. You guys have been the one with the nonsense. So what is the real injury? What's the real status?
Without Clark, this fixation on ball movement betrays a basic ignorance of what constitutes a winning basketball team. Without Tim Duncan, the San Antonio Spurs were unable to move the ball and win titles. Playing without Stephen Curry did not transform basketball for the Golden State Warriors. Superstars are the center of great teams' identities, not the opposite. White, though, appears committed to demonstrating that the Fever can succeed without Clark's help. It is as though possessing a generational talent is a flaw that should be conquered rather than a strength that should be maximized. Beyond her remarks in public, White's dubious decision-making also shows up in her coaching choices. White made the historic choice to start Ari McDonald alongside Clark after she was moved off the ball due to a groin issue. Fans widely criticized this decision because they saw it as an attempt to downplay Clark's contribution to the offense. There is more to the strategic ineptitude. White has continuously failed to set Clark for success, rather putting her in positions that restrict her influence. This isn't the evolution of players. It's coaching strategy masquerading as player repression.
It is that her philosophy just doesn't work with Caitlyn Clark. And probably in her mind, she's thinking, okay, she's going to be this, that, and the third if with my philosophy, but actually it hurts her game. This whole off ball is supposed to take away her turnovers away, limit her turnovers, and get better shot selection so she get a higher percentage. That's her mindset. Here's the issue. Her teammates don't pass the ball. That's the problem. That's the coach's fault, my opinion. Stephanie, don't you see that her teammates don't really pass her the ball? That's why she's frustrated. That's why she gets mad. That's why she, I see it all the time. And I do it while, you know what's funny? When she goes, I'm doing it too when I'm watching. I'm like, yo.
When asked to list the loud leaders in the locker room, White omitted Caitlyn Clark entirely, which was perhaps the most striking. White recognized Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Coulson, and Aaliyah Boston despite Clark being the franchise's face and team captain. White acknowledged Boston and Coulson as voices of reason and commended Cunningham's contagious charisma, calling her a natural connector. However, Clark, the athlete who revolutionized the entire organization and gave women's basketball a level of attention never seen before, was not worthy of recognition. This was not an unintentional snub. White's actual thoughts regarding Clark's place in the team hierarchy were made clear by this conscious decision. When talking about team leadership, a coach who genuinely appreciated her superstar would not leave her out of the conversation. There are now significant doubts over White's priorities after the way she handled Clark's several injuries during the season. Despite claiming in public to have a long-term strategy to Clark's health, her words and actions point to a different driving force. White's updates during Clark's groin injury were frequently ambiguous and ineffective. The way that successful coaches usually treat their franchise players contrasts sharply with this lack of communication and seeming indifference to her best player's condition. Excellent coaches have a close hand in every facet of their superstars' recuperation. They don't blatantly acknowledge that they haven't discussed the status of their key players with the medical staff.
She does not want Caitlin Clark being the main player. She does not want Caitlin Clark being that dog on this team. And she's made the decision that this is Kelsey Mitchell's team. It just is what it is, man. It is what it is. We know, we heard Caitlin Clark come out and say herself that Stephanie White don't want her shooting. We've heard that. We've heard that out of her mouth.
White's strategy's effects are already becoming noticeable. After initially applauding White's hire as the return of a successful coach, Fever supporters are now seriously questioning if she will be able to fully utilize Clark's abilities. One disappointed fan tweeted, "I won't be listening to her willingly anymore."